please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. After a rip-roaringly successful past 2 days, I've run out of topics. So, instead of going through something earmarked for a Megon 2 and it being a bit late if I got to it any later than today really, I thought we'd go to a response video to someone making a small complaint concerning Mother's Day in Texas. Because, of course, there is a problem with Texas. There's always a problem with Texas. In this instance, the problem is, well, I don't want to say trivial, but at the same time it does come across as sensationalized and is typically asserted via TikTok, of course, by those who refuse to prove their point, but like to assert that what they are saying is gospel, so one must at all times believe them. The nonsense usually espoused by people who do listen and believe has gone on for far too long, and I would like to believe that at some point in the near future we can have a renaissance of arbiter of truth tell me more, or perhaps something like citation needed.
So I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here, because you know what sucks?
I feel like the opening sentence was intentionally vague and nebulous to try and get us to engage with a whole slew of things that suck. We can start with a Hoover if you like, and end with people sticking gas pumps up their bottom while stroking one out. That was doing its rounds on Twitter yesterday, if you know what I'm talking about. Congratulations. The following sentence therefore is now applicable. Do you want pumped? In the context of this video, I am not entirely sure what sucks, beyond what I've already stated in the earlier part of this video. Mother's Day, Texas, and a rectum.
It was recently Mother's Day.
That's okay, don't worry. Don't think that this one sucks. There'll be one later in the year called Father's Day. You can have that as well. Insert obligatory. That was obviously sarcasm and a play on the fact that Father's Day invariably gets co-opted as Mother's Day as well.
And my mother is one of the sweetest, kindest, and most supportive and accepting people I have ever met and I've ever known.
Well, that is of course fantastic. We could all hope to have mothers like that in our lifetimes, or have had mothers like that in our lifetimes. There are many people who do not have a mother anymore, or never had a mother, and can only dream of having that kind of mother in their life. This is the part where I guess I get curious as to how this is a bad thing now, or how this can become a bad thing.
And I love her greatly. As I've become an adult, she and I have become closer than ever because of some shared experiences in life.
This feels like one hell of a setup, doesn't it? I will admit, there are many who would be quite envious of that level of closeness with a member of family. Shared experiences, not surprising, many parents do in fact have what is called a life before their child, or have experiences. You'd be hard-pressed to find one that hasn't got any experience at all, actually. Yes, I'm being pedantic, but with this level of a setup, I really am curious where the punchline is.
But I live in Texas.
Ah, the Lone Star State. Is this where Chuck Norris is from? Is this where John Wayne's from? The cowboy folk? Is this that state that has the second most powerful economy in your country? Sorry, Democratic Republic. It's unbearably hot and can't handle a winter. All that cattle, famous for Stone Cold Steve Austin, Booker T, Shawn Michaels. I can't think of anything else Texas is famous for, actually. Oh, and that massive problem with the border. Yes, that's an interesting one. Very interesting problem. Politically, it usually votes red, although some cities are more blue-leaning, and has become host to many leaving California because they've realized, turns out, driving people's taxes through the roof and ruining the entire culture of California wasn't so smart. So they thought they'd go and do it in Texas instead. This is the part where we find out what it is that makes Texas so bigoted, of course.
Now, I live in a very liberal and accepting part of Texas.
While Texas is quite a, let's say, conservative state, I've never really thought of it as one that could ever turn blue, but you never know. I'm glad that there are many Texans in areas of Texas that accept you for who you are. Since I don't live in your state, I cannot speak on the culture. I can only say that I do not believe it right to paint an entire state with the same brush because of what will undoubtedly come down to politics, and then a cultural divide because of those politics.
And I am very lucky to do so. Where I grew up, where my mom lives, is nothing like that.
This raises a number of questions. The most obvious being, if you live in a more accepting area of Texas, your mum does not. Does that indicate she cannot leave, does not want to leave? Does it indicate that your views and your bond is not as close as you thought it was? Or are you less than accepting of the environment your mother lives in? It is quite common for when a child becomes an adult to fly the roost, and in some cases, rage quit. I guess it depends on one's perspective of the environment they grew up in. You two have a mutual understanding and bond over shared lived experiences. So my questions do carry some level of validity based on your own statement from earlier in the video.
So, guess who did not get to go home and visit their mother for Mother's Day?
I now have to ask more dumb questions. Thank you for this. Is the reason you didn't get to go because you were asked not to go by your mother or by other members of your family? Were you unable to phone call because that's something many would actually resort to doing if they were unable to attend? Were you not able to afford it and looked for an excuse? Or do you really believe the area your mother lives in, being as judgy as it is based on this meagre statement you provided so far, is enough of a reason for you not to do something nice for your mother?
Me. I had to settle for calling her. Now, we talked for a good hour, but we caught up. But this sucks.
Do forgive my ignorance in matters concerning Texas, but if Mother's Day really mattered to you so much, you would take every necessary step to go there and be there with your mother. If that's what meant so much to you enough to make this video to talk about it, which, by the way, comes across as disingenuous and just another reason to shit on the location where you live, or, sorry, where your mother lives, which at the same time can be seen as an insult to your mother for two completely separate reasons. But again, I could be wrong, couldn't I? That's always possible. But this does come across as somebody trying to inflate their own sense of self-importance to drive home a point that doesn't exist as much as they think it does. Because Texas bad in places where mum lives.
That I don't feel safe going back to visit my mom. No matter how much I feel like I pass or do not pass.
Out of curiosity, what is it about you that makes you not feel safe being you in the area around where your mother lives? Additionally, and this one might seem a bit weird, but if you were so desperate to be able to see your mother, could you not have made necessary concessions to conceal what you pass as, perhaps, if that is the problem in the first place, to instead pass unnoticed? Although, if you say you pass, then surely you pass unnoticed anyway. I'm being a little bit pedantic here, but I do feel like you didn't want to go and see your mother, and you're trying desperately to make it seem like the reason why is because Texas makes you feel unsafe in the area your mother lives, as opposed to the very lovely, quaint, accepting area you live in.
It doesn't matter. There's a fear there now.
Fear is irrational. In many instances, it is based on a form of reasoning, and some has merit. For example, I for the longest time had a fear of lightning, because anything that had the potential to blow up my heart was worthy of my fear. I'm not necessarily afraid anymore, but I will admit I'm still a little bit uncomfortable. But as I have to go to work, storms can sod right off. That is my mentality now. In your case, you can't even push through it, which means you're allowing your fear to control you. Or you're making it seem that way because you want to be more afraid than you really are. Now that depends on your interpretation of the events. As far as I'm concerned, I couldn't care less where my mother lived when she lived. I would have gone to see her if I was able to do so. And I'm sure that is a sentiment shared by many. I want to ask just a question, I guess, to the ether. Would it not have been possible for your mother to come see you, perhaps? If you felt so unsafe, did you not tell her, perhaps, that this would not be feasible or possible because of your fears? Mothers are very good at alleviating fears, so one does wonder.
And that's not cool. That's just something I wanted to say, I guess.
This is where the video ends, and so I don't know if there's any more additional context. We have no verifiable fact as to why they are afraid, beyond them asserting that they are simply afraid of the region where their mother lives. The individual in this video claim they are close to their mother, but apparently not close enough to have anything more than a 1-hour phone call on Mother's Day. Everything is nebulous, without any definitive information, making this come across as remarkably pointless. A cry for attention in a void of nothing, which can also be called TikTok. If you believe that an area that might be more conservative would not tolerate your existence enough to go and see your mother, or at any point you have created in your own mind a political divide. I'm sure this raises questions about your own mother's voting habits, of course. If you permit fear conjured out of your own bottom and ideologies to control your movement and your ability to live and to be with those you love or claim to love, you are a sad, sorry sack of a person. Quite frankly, that is what you are.